Good morning, students. Today we are going to see the rise of nationalism in Europe in history. That is the first lesson. So, this is a very important lesson in history and an interesting lesson too. So, at first, we'll go on with the introductory chapter. So, here we can see in the introductory chapter the picture that was drawn by Frederick Sorio, a French artist, and he visualized his dream of the world made up of democratic and social republics, and that we can see in this picture. As said in the picture, the first print of the picture that shows European and American people, they were marching like a long train to, and they were offering their homage to the Statue of Liberty. And here the French artist shown the Statue of Liberty. It was made as an allegory, as a female figure having torch of enlightenment in one hand and the Charter of Rights of Man in the other hand. And you can see the absolutist institutions, that is the king's rule, the monarchical rule, that was demolished, and the remains that were laying, the absolutist institution remains, which you can see in the ground. And this Sorio, he's had an utopian vision in which all the countries were distinct, having their distinct flags, right? And each country people having their own costume, okay? Each country is divided with categorized by the flag and their national costume. And what were the countries that were following this? Mainly, yeah. What were the countries that are there in this procession? It is not only totally we have said as European and American, but the countries such as United States, Switzerland, France, Germany, and following these countries, the Austria, Kingdom of Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia. And all these scenes were gazed upon by the Christ, angels, and the saints from the above. And this shows the fraternity. Fraternity means it's brotherhood, right? So this is like a seed that created the revolution and hope in people that someday they would become a nation state. And here we are learning mainly about what is nation state and what is modern state. What is nation state? Nation state is nothing but a country having equal importance for both the king as well as the citizens to have a can anyone say, or can anyone recall what it is? It is nothing but a nation state was one in which majority of its citizens and not only its ruler come to develop a sense of collective identity, okay? Collective identity or a shared history. And when we are coming to modern state, here only the centralized power is exercised. The sovereign control over the clearly defined territory. That is, one particular area if we are taking means there the king's rule, that was a centralized rule that was there. And we can say the modern state is nothing but a centralized power, that is king's rule, and nation state is nothing but both citizens as well as rulers, they come together to have a common identity. Okay, ma'am. So we'll go on to the next thing. So here already we have studied in from our childhood itself what is nationalism. We can have a short recap of it and we can move fastly. So Nationalism is nothing but what? The feeling of oneness, the feeling of belonging and loyalty that causes people think of themselves as a nation. For example, we all are feeling that we all belong to India. We are all Indians, and we should be loyal to our country. That's the thought of, that is the main thought of nationalism. And this nationalism was created and developed during the 19th and 20th century, and which became a powerful force that created two things. First thing is one nation from many separate countries, for which we can say that at first Europe was a continent that was ruled by what that was having many countries in sense, but that was not created. Even France, Germany, and various places, we can say like Italy, Germany, today it's country, but once it was simply like a territory. Okay, European territory. Yeah, Europe, it was the Europe was considered as the country, and country or continent, and all other things like France, Germany, everything were considered as territory because everything was under Bourbon dynasty. And break one nation up to many countries. And here we know that in some areas one single country that was divided and splitted up into many countries. For example, we can take Austria Hungary and Turkey. And next thing we are seeing is European society. Here we know that two types of people were there. First type of people were the upper class. The upper class people, we commonly know that only the landed aristocracy people or the educated middle class people were said to be called as the upper class people, and these aristocracy people were the dominant group. Both socially and politically, these people were the dominant group, and they had a common interest and lifestyle. And what were their common interests? They thought that they were having a dignity, and they were owning a large country estates and townhouses and fields and everything, where they asked the peasants to work for them, and they used to pay very less amount, and they used to marry. They were having marriage ties through which they earned a huge lands and everything. And for their dignity, they most of them were using French language in their communication. And when we are coming to the lower class people, majority of the people coming under lower class were peasants. They were hard working people, and in even in that peasants, there were small owners were there, but most of the percentage people were landless people, and they worked under some landlords or some other people, mainly this aristocracy people, and some worked as serfs. They were forced to work as serf. Serf means, they were forced to work and they will not be given proper salary. And next we are coming to the French Revolution and the idea of nation. Here we all know that French Revolution was started in the year 1789, and it gets full fledged by that year. And you all know that when this French Revolution started, the complete France was under the rule of monarchs. It was ruled by kings. But the political and constitutional changes, that was the main reason for the wake up of French Revolution. And what during this French Revolution, what were the people thought? They thought that they should come out of this monarchy to become a free French citizens. That was their thought. For that, they undergone these French revolutionaries. They undergone various practices and measures to adopt, and to that was adopted to develop what, a sense of collective identity. For that, we all know that the idea of la patrie, the idea of le citoyen, and creating their own French flag, tricolor French flag. In that way, they had many measures and they had a mission too. What was the mission? The mission was to liberate the people of Europe from despotism. That was their main mission. Yeah, that was even mentioned here. So the declaration of mission is to liberate Europe from despotism. And one more thing I said you that at that time a new social group that was emerging, and it is nothing but Jacobin clubs. That are educated middle class people, they created Jacobin clubs, and in which most of the educated middle class people and workers, peasants, and also students of Europe, they joined in it. So that slowly, what happened? The revolution became powerful and it spread all over Europe. And when we are coming to the idea of nationalism, yeah, we had already studied the idea of La Patrie, Le Citoyen, and the adoption of new constitution with citizens enjoying equal rights. And as I said, the tricolor French flag replacing royal standards, and new hymns and votes were taken, martyrs were commemorated, and uniform system of weights and measures were adopted, and it was mainly during the time of Napoleon. And central administrative system was formalized. The what is meant by central administrative system? All over the place, from this end to that end, the same rule should be followed. That's what the thought. And after that, as we said, French became the national language, and Paris became the written language. This was the thing, and imaginary female allegories were created. Many female allegories were created to show that they are united nations, such as Mariana and Germania. So here in this lesson, the main thing that we are learning is Napoleonic Code. So what do we know about the Napoleonic Code? Sorry, it's a mistake. Napoleonic Code is otherwise known as Civil Code of 1804. Okay, so here the major advantages or the major important things that we can see in the Napoleonic Code is privileges based on birth abolished and equality before law was established. So here we all know that in those days there was the privilege given only to the nobles and to the clergymen, and the peasants were not given privileges. So what they thought, privileges based on birth. If a child born in a royal family, he comes under privileged group. And if a person born under born under peasant category, and though he is having good talent, good skill, and good leadership quality, he is not given the privilege. So the privilege is based on birth abolished, and equality for everyone, equality before law was established. And in the same way, in the olden days, what happened? This nobles and clergymen, they used to acquire the lands of the peasants without asking, and they forced them to work under them. For that, they think this peasant should not have anything. So that right to property was established, and the feudal system was abolished. Feudal system, in sense, that though these peasants were hardworking and they were coming under the third estate, and they were the only tax paying people, they also have to pay feudal taxes to the churches and to the clergy people, so that these clergy people earn more and they live a sophisticated life. So that feudal system was also abolished, and the administrative divisions were simplified. And it doesn't mean that king, then noble, then clergy, and then only for all the people's rules we have to follow. That was not at all done, and the administrative divisions were simplified. Okay, and the peasants got freedom from serfdom and manorial dues. What is meant by serfdom? No one can force them to work in their fields without salary. And manorial dues, in sense, even for working under people, even for having small lands, even for having house and everything, they have to pay taxes. So no need to pay that. That was the thing. And then uniform laws and standardization of weights and measures were introduced. In olden days, there was no weight system or measure system. But after this, Napoleon, he said that all over the places there should be standard weights. One day the weight should be like yeah, what for example today 1 kg is considered as half kg and tomorrow it is 2 kg. That's not like that. Standardization of weights means every time the weight should be with the same measure. That's what is brought up by Napoleon. And finally, common national currency was adopted. If it is common national currency, they could spend it wherever they go. So that was the thing. And finally, guild restriction in towns were removed and transport. We all know that in the olden days, for moving from one place to another, there will be many taxes in sense to cross one border they have to pay money to the government. Mainly one third of the goods that we are carrying from one place to another for selling, we have to pay it as tax. So that taxes, and for transportation taxes, and for everything that was removed. Barriers, that is trade barriers was removed. And next we are seeing the making of nationalism in Europe. So here till middle 18th century there was no concept such a called nation state. Everyone thought of living freely, everyone thought of what coming out of this serfdom and being downtrodden. That was their thought. But slowly after this revolution became more popular, the nationalism thought, that is having their own nation state as their identity, that thought created in all the people all over Europe. And many societies and politics was dominated by this aristocracy people. Okay, and to the west the land was formed by whom? Mainly the tenants and small owners, while in the eastern area and central area there was fully estates, and that fully estates were owned by the aristocracy people, and they made the serfs to cultivate in their land. And slowly at that time, by the 19th century, a new group that was emerged, that is a working and middle class people, and this led to industrialization. You all know that it became popular in which area? Industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century, but in France and in Germany it occurred only in the 19th century, that you all know. And this time what happens? Educated people, liberal middle class people, they were popularized and they were started fighting for the abolition of aristocratic privileges. Okay, and here we come to know one new type of people in sense a new thought. It is liberal nationalism. What is meant by liberal nationalism? Liberalism means mainly it comes from the Latin root liber, which means free. And what it actually stood for? It stood for freedom for the individual and equality for all before the law. Okay, and since the French Revolution was very much popularized in that time, according to that, liberalism had stood for the end of the autocracy and clerical privileges, and a new constitution and a representative government should be formed through parliament. That was the idea of liberal nationalism. Okay, and we can divide the liberal nationalism into two ways. So in the side of political sphere and in the side of economic sphere. So in the political sphere we can see that government by consent, whatever law or whatever scheme the government pass, it should be by the consent of the government. And the end of autocracy in sense king's rules to be what a king's rule or a dominating power should get, that rule should end. And next, adoption of constitution. The government, the rule should have a constitution, that was their thought. And abolition of property rights. Abolition of property rights in sense no one can take the rights of one's property, that should be abolished, that's what the thought. And final thing is equality before law, everyone is equal in front of law. And representative government, that should run through the parliament, that was their thought. For example, what is meant by representative government? We can even say it may be a king's role, but even if it is a king's role, that should be a parliament, and only through the parliament everything should happen. King may be a leader or a person who is taking care of all those things in that way. And when we are coming into the economic sphere, it is freedom of market, because in the olden days we know that there was many problem, and the sellers, they were suffering many, they were having many problems, such as they have to pay a huge tax, they have to pay, for example, they have to take the goods from one to other area, they have to pay taxes, they have to sell in one area, they have to pay taxes. And that tax was not in a very little amount, it was a big amount, it is one third means, for example, if he is selling for 30 rupees, he have to pay 10 rupees. And in that area, and for taking that good to one place to another, he have to pay another 10 rupees, so he cannot able to earn some money for his family. That was the problem that was they were having. So this freedom of market can create that. So that was the idea of liberal nationalism. And removal of state imposed restriction, for each and every state there was some restrictions that was to be removed, mainly for the movement of goods and capital, money. And because of this, most of the traders and sellers, they formed a union by the year 1834, that is said to be called as Zollverein. Okay, and that Zollverein, what was their main motto? The union that abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. If it was 30 dollars or 30 pounds, it should be reduced to 2 pounds, so that they could do their trade and everything. And then new conservation after 1815 that was created. And what it is mainly about, it is nothing but after the defeat of Napoleon. You all know that Napoleon started slowly getting defeated by various places. He lost most of his territories, which you can see in the figure 5. The courier of Rhineland loses all that he has on the way home from Leipzig. It is in the page number 7. Yeah, I think you could refer it. Okay, and slowly what happened, this Napoleon was defeated, and after his defeat he was here, and he was died too. And slowly what happened, after his death, Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and all these areas, all these people, all these country people, they come together, and there was a congress, right? So that congress was having the head. Who is the head of that congress? It's Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Okay, Duke Metternich, and they all gathered in one place, that is Vienna, where they signed a treaty. And do you all know what that treaty mainly focused on? It focused on 4 things, but main thing is, the main motive was to undo the changes that was initiated by Napoleon and to restore monarchy. That was their thought. And we will go with the provisions of this Treaty of Vienna. First thing is, they thought that before Napoleon, Bourbon kings were ruling that particular area. So we should restoration of the Bourbon dynasty, and the territories acquired by the Napoleon during his rule should be taken back. Okay, and next thing is, they wanted never they never wanted the French expansion should be done in future. So they were creating everyone, they were given their own places and their territories were marked, okay, so that in future never it will be taken by other kings or someone. And the Austria was given the northern at Italy to control. Okay, it was the thing happened before Napoleon's rule. The same was given in the same way. But what was the thing? Napoleon started his rule with 39 states that we all know. So in that particular 39 states, there was no change in German Confederation, and Russia, it was having the control of the Poland before Napoleon's rule. So it was given back to Russia, and finally Prussia has given territories on its western border, including Saxony. Saxony and many other places were given under the control of Prussia. This was a thing we can see. And next, the revolutionaries. So in revolutionaries, we know that what slowly many people, because we all know that after the death of Napoleon and after the rule of this conservatives, what happened? They made many restrictions. What were the restrictions? What There was no freedom of speech. The speech, press, books, and newspapers, everything were the rights were forbidden. So what happened means many liberal people, we all know now, liberal nationalists, that people they started to ask for their rights, and as they couldn't able to get it, they were fighting, and if they were fighting directly, they were arrested, they were killed, they were tortured by these people. So that's why they slowly they created secret societies to spread the ideas of nationalism and to oppose this conservatism. Okay, and one main person in that is Mazzini, and this Mazzini viewed nation states to be necessary, and he opposed monarchy. We all have learned that as Mazzini has a thought that God has created this world for the people to be happy and not under any suppression of any people. So people should be free. That was the thought of this Mazzini. And this Mazzini is a person who went to exile for undergoing revolutions and many things. Okay, and even he had established two secret societies, that is Young Italy in Marseilles and Young Europe in Berne. And not only that, this Mazzini, he started secret societies, but even then, once he at first he got motivated to join in secret societies which were already there in Germany, France, Switzerland, and Poland. Okay, and that is the reason at first Mazzini joined in one such secret society called Corbenan, and later only he started these two secret societies. Okay, and finally, because of these societies and because of the constant efforts of this Mazzini through his secret societies, the conservatives started what this conservative frightened by his move. And we all know that the Duke Metternich, who said what did he said? He said that this Giuseppe Mazzini is the most dangerous enemy of our social order. That's what he said. And I think this is enough for this class. And will I just want all of you to read the whole introductory chapter, introductory unit, first unit and second unit of this first chapter, and get well versed with it. And I will be asking you questions in the live class, and we'll go on with the third unit in the next class. Thank you, students. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.